one plays. Today we're talking about cards that can be turned sideways to go on a quest, like in that new Disney card game. But the quest is to punch your opponent in the face. We're talking 1-mana creatures that have changed a lot over the years. I did a whole video on that transformation. I'll link that in the description of the cards. It's about how we gone from Savannah Lions to format-defining monkeys. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about the most powerful, the most backbreaking, the most format-defining 1-mana creatures in all of Magic. The 5 most powerful 1-drops. But before we get there, don't forget this video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Use the link in the description below or the code Kenobi at checkout to get 5% off your order if you're looking to pre-order singles for March of the Machines or buy some of the cards I'm talking about in this video. And don't forget, I'm also sponsored by Whatnot. I do a monthly AMA stream where I hang out, I answer questions, and I sell off some bits and bobs. My next stream is at 7 PM BST on the 27th of April. So come hang out where everything is being sold and starting at £1 singular pound. If you use my code, which is linked in the description below, and signing up to Whatnot, you get £10 off your first order. Let's talk honourable mentions first. I'm going to throw out Monastery Swiftspear, both Basking and Blazing Rootwaller, Skirk Prospector, Mother of Runes, and I've written Skirk Prospector twice because I'm a twat. All of these cards are really quite strong, all of which are played heavily in some format somewhere. The Basking and Blazing Rootwaller might seem weird, but they are vintage staples in Dredge and Hogak decks. Skirk Prospector is a card used to power up Muxus when you're playing in the best of 1 historical queues on Arena. Mother of Runes and to a lesser extent Giver of Runes are staples in formats where D&T is a strong and powerful deck, but they aren't anywhere near as powerful as the 5 cards I'm about to talk about. The closest one of my honourable mentions that gets even remotely close is Monastery Swiftspear, because this card is very good. In any format where it's playable, it is played in aggro decks and sometimes even in sort of combo aggro tempo shells where you're going to fire off a lot of spells and murder people. I was looking at figures on Goldfish about how many copies of cards are played in certain formats, and Swiftspear seems to be apparent in multiple formats where Goblin Guide is absent too. So just showing that Swiftspear, actually that's not fair, right? Goblin Guide's not even on Arena, so maybe that actually pushes that a little bit. Either way, Swiftspear doesn't quite get there compared to the aggressive cards on this list, or the fact that all the cards on this list can probably go into most decks and be powerful, barring perhaps one of them. And there's a whole other honourable mention of category, which is Mana Dorks. This is Birds of Paradise, Noble Hierarch, the Golden Goose, and the lowly Llanowar Elves. These cards see a lot of play still to this day in multiple formats. I'm a real sucker for jumping a turn or so ahead to land my Haymaker, but they don't show up in eternal and non-rotating formats with the prevalence that the following 5 do. In at number 5, I'm putting Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel is probably the least hostile, the least aggressive, the least likely to have a fight outside a kebab shop at 2 AM in the morning. That said, he is the only card on the list that literally says draw a card on him, which is really, it's a testament to how powerful the other 4 really are, that they are better than a card that literally draws you cards. The best thing you can do in Magic. Sticking a once per turn heuristic study on a creature was always going to be strong. No one thought otherwise except for perhaps Commander players who are a little bit fucking greedy. The question of do you pay the 1 matters a lot more in non-rotating formats full of powerful spells, as everyone is trending towards super efficiency and doesn't want to take a tempo loss to keep you down on cards. It hurts even more against enemy decks that are looking to cantrip their way into sculpting a hand or a combo. Decks casting things like Brainstorms and Ponders. He sees play in multiple formats across multiple decks, White Weenie, Affinity and Artifact-based decks, Hammer Time combo decks, and most significantly of all, he's probably the strongest Commander card on this list. Of all the 5, this is the one that sees the most Commander play, providing the disruptive element and raw card advantage that you want from a 1-drop at higher power levels, or dare I even say it, in competitive EDH. This card is more akin to Mystic Remora than it is to Heuristic Study. And on top of all of that, on top of its raw charisma, uniqueness, nerve and talent, he's relevant creature types too, playing well with soldiers, which is less relevant, but more excitingly with humans, in decks that care about that sort of thing. Testament to his power, I think he's so good that randomly slotting him into like your weird brews that play white will often just work. Like without any other further synergy with his creature types or the fact that he's an artifact, he's just that good. In at number 4 is a card that probably would have topped this list maybe 5 or so years ago. This is Delver of Secrets. Entire archetypes are named after this card. Even when he gets cut for better and more powerful 1-drop threats that come later in this list, the decks are still called Delver, an historic ode, an historic legacy of this card. There is simply no underestimating just how raw dog aggressive a 3-power creature for 1 mana with evasion is. Wild the Cattle was once upon a time a card banned in Modern for being scarily powerful and aggressive, for fear that old school zoo decks would run amok and they might just be too fast for the format. But then people started casting 7 mana spells on turn 3 and combo killing each other, and 1 mana cats were no longer an issue. Delver isn't a cattle that trades 1 toughness for the ability to fly over opposing ground forces, and the evasion is huge. You do need to flip him to get all this, and this is perhaps his biggest weakness. You are required to play a critical mass of instant speed and sorcery spells to ensure you can turn the fugitive wizard into Jeff Goldblum of Magic. Not that Jeff Goldblum, that Jeff Goldblum. That said, flipping him isn't that difficult in formats where you have access to things like Opt or Consider, but more importantly, in older formats, Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm, in formats like Legacy. All of these reasons means that Delver has always needed to be in a shell with strong support, and this is why he dominates Legacy in particular. No matter how much new hotness you jam into Delver, whether Delver is the home for the freshly printed Oko at the time, or Loris in the Companion Zone, you're always going to get to play 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, 4 Days, and 4 Force of Will. One of the most obscene and powerful and consistent deck shells ever written on a deck list at 3 AM before a tournament sign-up. However though, when your threat base increases to include Murktide Regents and Brazen Borrowers and 2 or 3 of the other cards on this very list, your spell count gets a little low. You're looking to make cuts. So Delver's weakness might be that they get pushed to the wayside because of this need to jump through hoops. In many ways, Delver of Secrets is on this list and is the least powerful in a vacuum because you need to do other things to get him there. How about Delver 2.0? Dragon Rage motherfucking Channeler, Darcy, or DRC, or Raging Dragon Bitch. It doesn't matter what jovial name you used whilst jamming these things down your opponent's throat, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Dragon Rage Channeler is an absolute monster of a 1-drop. I have a feeling that if Delver was printed years later when DRC was, people wouldn't hold the nostalgia for Delver, and DRC would take on and take over a Delver and Legacy a lot more than it does already. We already see some lists now dropping the namesake Delver card in favour of more creatures, and Dragon Rage Channeler ends up making the cut, filling in that role as the 1 mana recurable lightning bolt, the 3-powered creature with evasion. And whilst Dragon Rage Channeler does require some hoops to jump through, like casting spells and playing a slightly wider variety of permanent types in your deck, her own built-in ability to fuel that absolutely makes up for all this shit by giving you a Surveil 1 on cast. And not only does that fuel her ability to get online and become a powerful 1-drop that's hitting you in the air, the Surveil also gives you card selection. It improves the quality of your draws on a 1-drop aggressive creature. It's mad this isn't uncommon. Part of me wonders that if Wizards knew just how much play this was going to see, they would have perhaps printed it at rare. It's so good in fact that she's been digitally rebalanced in everyone's favourite format, Alchemy, to have only 1
toughness
when she's powered up. Not that anyone really gives a shit. In at number 2 is, well, okay, I feel bad at putting it at number 2, but it's Deathrite Shaman. I was almost certain I was going to put it in at number 1, but as I was writing this video, the more I looked at it, the more I faltered, the more I wondered if that was correct. Deathrite Shaman is the only mana dork to make the list. By that I mean a creature that can produce mana, although the top slot also makes mana, so let's be real. But to describe Deathrite Shaman as a mana dork is so fucking reductive. It's just not doing the little 1 mana planeswalker justice. This thing in combination with fetch lands allowed decks and other formats to play 3 and 4 color mana bases with little to no care in a format where Blood Moon and Wasteland are legal. You could survive through over-ambitious hands with 2 lands if one of them was a fetch. You could survive through Wasteland. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted. Deathrite Shaman really let people ignore the rules of Magic. But it wasn't just a Birds of Paradise with 1 extra power. It also helped to fight against Reanimator and Dredge and other unfair graveyard strategies, and also gave you a life buffer against aggressive strategies like Burn with the ability to eat things out of the graveyard and gain life. And then to top it all off, it has a 3rd mode. Deathrite Shaman can race people down in the mid to late game by chewing through yours and their previously cast spells to shoot your opponent for 2 life loss each time, making it a valuable piece of reach in a format like Legacy. Honestly, the more I talk about it now, actually saying it out loud for the video, I'm conflicted at putting it at number 2. Maybe it should have been at number 1. It's banned in Legacy and Modern, and wasn't seen play in every deck though, where Ragavan is banned in Legacy, not Modern, but was seen play in a wider range of decks, so perhaps... Oh, I really don't fucking know. Let me know in the comment section below how you feel about my number 1 and number 2 here, because it could have just been a joint number 1, but that felt like a cop-out. In at number 1 is Ragavan, Monkey, the little plundering bastard, the poster boy for power creep in the year of our Lord 2023, although he was printed in 2022. Or was he printed in 21? Trigger, put the date on screen now, I can't remember. Sometimes I read Ragavan and I think, oh boy, this reads like a shitty custom card I would have found in a Facebook group. It's a 2/1 for 1 mana who can be dashed for 2 mana, giving him haste and returning to hand at the end of turn, turn if he didn't know what dash did. Already a respectable aggro card with those abilities when compared to the likes of Zergo fucking Bell Striker. But what if when he hit you he made a treasure, ramping his owner? Oh, fair enough. Seems pushed to fit with the Modern Horizons power levels. Very reasonable to add an extra ability. But wait, there's more. For some reason, known only to those huffing glue fumes in the Wizards of the Coast offices, he also exiles the top card of your library, which fucks with people's scries, their preordains, their ponders, their brainstorms, their idyllic tutors, not idyllic tutors, what's the one I'm looking for? Enlightened tutors. Okay, very cool, very funny. I like the exile effect. But wait, there's fucking more. Not only does it exile a random card to fuck with your opponent, you can cast it until end of turn 2. Yeah, and the treasure generation thing means that like off-color spells are fair game as well. It's wild. Part of me wonders if during like design, the whole exile a card and be able to cast it thing might have functioned similarly to Robber of the Rich, where it went into a pool that can be activated or accessed when you attack each turn. I wonder if this card was even better in design. I guess we'll never know, but that is a wild thing to think about. Why am I even thinking that? Maybe because it's so fucking pushed, I can imagine them going even further with it. The problem with Ragavan compared to even Deathrite Shaman is that it just took over games and warped the entire game plan and metagame around it, of playing this extra sub-game of can I deal with a monkey on turn 1? If the monkey hits you just once, the value of information, ramp, and on occasion just raw dog card advantage was huge in a format like Legacy. Having a 1-mana 2-powered creature take over the game like this was a problem. It would undo the card advantages you should have, so when you kill a creature with a 1-for-1 removal spell, Ragavan might just make that card back by getting it off the top of the library and fix your mana whilst doing it. Who gives a fuck about Wastelands and Blood Moons when your Ragavan can be played off any of your lands being red and then hit you and make treasures? The card is very silly. However, it wasn't unbeatable. Something I do want to point out is that Ragavan didn't just like win you the game on the spot. Sometimes the opponent would have removal and you play a game of Magic. Ragavan, if anything, encouraged people to play interactive games of Magic. A late game Ragavan onto a cluttered board does very little, meaning the card definitely had some downsides, where a Deathrite Shaman on the other hand onto a cluttered board would often give you the reach to close out the game and win when there's a board stall. In many ways, Ragavan was back-breaking early and on occasion late, when you could, I don't know, dash it out after a Wrath or Terminus, or who's playing Terminus these days? After whatever people have done to kill your creatures. Meanwhile, Deathrite Shaman was an accelerant early and a stall breaker late game. They shined differently at different points of the game, but almost equally. I think that Monkey's legacy will live on a bit more than Deathrite Shaman, with him coming to Historic soon with the release of March of the Machines and him being printed into the Multiversal Legends slot. I think if Deathrite Shaman was printed today into Historic, I think you'd see less play. I think less decks would want him simply because he kind of requires fetch lands to be good in the early game, even if he's reasonable in the late game grind. Ragavan, on the other hand, would just outshine him because he's good even outside of the need to play fetch lands, which makes him probably the most powerful card on this list and the most powerful 1-mana creature of all time. So what do you think? Did I fuck it up? Do you think Deathrite Shaman is better than Ragavan? Do you think I was wrong for not including Noble Hierarch or Birds of Paradise in this top 5? Do you think they're better than Esper Sentinel? Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. It helps to support the show immensely. And I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now. Oh, I hate this part. I'm gonna add you as a friend. Is that allowed? Tell me
Which
your
part
thing.
of that?
What is it?
Which part of that do you hate? Yeah, add me.